More U.S. airstrikes.
Airstrikes.
ISIL militants.
ISIL Operation Inherent Resolve.
The terror group and remotely piloted aircraft.
Airstrikes.
The terror group ISIL.
The U.S. Air Force has flown more than 60% of the 16,000 plus sorties in the battle against ISIL in Iraq and
I was the commander of an MQ-1 squadron that was part of the first air power to go into Iraq. We were there to assist U.S. and coalition troops that were on the ground and to map out the extent of ISIS as it rolled through Mosul and came up to the gates of Baghdad. We went north into Iraq on about 12 hours notice, trying to map out the extent of ISIS, how close they were getting to Baghdad. Eventually, a couple months after we'd been flying over Iraq, we were armed, and along with our U.S. Navy and coalition partners, executed the first airstrikes in northern Iraq near Erbil, which were F-18s that dropped those weapons and then followed on by MQ-1 strikes in and around Erbil and Mosul. Additionally, we were tasked with assisting for airdrops to rescue the Yazidi civilians that were trapped on Mount Sinjar in northwest Iraq. There were about 30 to 40,000 Yazidis that ISIS had chased up into the mountains.
Conducted an assessment of the situation on Mount Sinjar, Iraq, and the impact of U.S. military actions there.
Before that, we were doing various missions around the Middle East. Specifically, we were doing reconnaissance missions over the Arabian Gulf, watching the shipping lanes, not only through the Arabian Gulf, but the Strait of Hormuz. We definitely influenced the beginning of OIR. We were, along with the Navy and Marine Corps aircraft coming off the George H.W. Bush, we were the only assets in theater at that time, along with some special ops aircraft. We were the initial reconnaissance aircraft that analyzed exactly where ISIS was, helped the special ops team understand what was the capabilities of the Iraqi security forces. When we started OIR, we were really in a reconnaissance role, but today it's almost all close-to-air support.
Today's OIR fight, for example, like what's happening in Mosul, it's a minute-by-minute fight. When the Iraqi security forces and our coalition partners are engaging with ISIS in Mosul, the requirement and the ISIS is presenting itself in a fleeting opportunities. So the MQ and MQ-9 air crew need to be very reactive and very quickly figure out the situation on the ground, find the enemy, and in many cases, in a matter of single-digit minutes, have fires, have weapons on the ground to protect our coalition forces and our Iraqi partners that are in the battle space. So our fight in OIR specifically has really taken probably one of the next major steps we have in the MQ and MQ-9 community, where we're going through the transition to an all MQ-9 fleet, and we're about halfway through that transition today. The MQ-9 brings us better sensors, more weapons. In the hands of that air crew that we already had very capable in the MQ-1, we're able to bring even more weapons to bear and provide more strike support to both our U.S. and coalition partners on the ground.
Over 33% of the sorties flown by the United States Air Force in OIR have been flown by MQ-1 and 9 air crews. And when you think of sorties that last up to 21 to 23 hours, that's a lot of time spent over the battlefield. This calendar year we'll have somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500 strikes and over 300 buddy lasers where we're providing terminal guidance for other aircraft to employ their weapons. And those kinds of effects are hard to completely account for, but we know that we're having an incredible impact. When you look at joint coalition warfighting experience, what our MQ-1 and 9 aircrew are bringing to the fight today is truly remarkable.